Premier of the Province of British Columbia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House I've sent a letter to Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and I'll read it, if I can, into the record now. Dear Prime Minister Harper, media reports suggest that the Government of Canada will be introducing legislation to increase the number of seats in the House of Commons for British Columbia. This move to adequately reflect British Columbia's size at the federal level would be an extremely positive development. I recognize that this was a commitment your government made in the last election, and I'm pleased to see that you and your government intend to move this initiative forward in order that the new seats can be in place for the 2015 election. I look forward to working with your government and the Honourable Tim Uppal, the Minister of State for Democratic Reform, as you move forward with this important initiative. On behalf of all British Columbians, thank you for taking these steps to make the House of Commons more democratically representative of Canada's regions. And I'll also add too, that's my letter to the Prime Minister. I'll table it when I sit down, Mr. Speaker, but just add an appeal to the members of the opposition as well. The members of their party in Ottawa may not be so excited about BC getting its fair share in the House of Commons, and indeed their federal leader hasn't expressed unqualified support. In fact, if anything, he's been unsupportive of British Columbia receiving its fair share in the House of Commons. So I would ask the members of the opposition to do all that they can to lobby their brothers and sisters in Ottawa. I know the Leader of the Opposition speaks French. It will be useful in approaching his many Quebec colleagues in Ottawa to make sure that British Columbia gets its fair share. The federal government wants to do this. I hope that the opposition, this opposition, can find a way to persuade their colleagues in the opposition in the House of Commons to vote in favour of this legislation should it be introduced. I'd like to table this letter now, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Just to remind members, it's a ministerial statement and the Leader of the Opposition has time to respond.
Much, Honourable Speaker, because we all know, Honourable Speaker, we all know when very serious letters like this are sent to the Prime Minister, letters whose first sentence is, media reports suggest, and second sentence begins, if accurate. Those ones he takes particularly seriously, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, for years, I have advocated for BC to get its fair share of representation in the House of Commons. For years, I have. I say it's about time, and even this proposal doesn't bring us to that level. Even this proposal doesn't bring us to that level. BC should have its full share of representation in the House of Commons, and we should have our full share of representation in the upper house. Currently, as the members of the House know, and I'm not going to waste the time of this House with silly partisan statements like the one made by the Premier of the province. I think we in British Columbia should argue when we have one senator for every 700,000 citizens, and other provinces have one senator for every 30,000 citizens, to see the abolition of the Senate and fair representation for British Columbia in the House of Commons. That's what we advocate on this side of the House. Serious position on serious issues. The issue of representation in the House of Commons is a fundamental one. We in BC, over time, and because of circumstances, have been shortchanged, and that has to change. And I find it wrong, Honourable Speaker, I just find it wrong that the Premier of British Columbia, rather than trying to speak for British Columbia, would attempt to make this a vicious, nasty, little partisan issue. I think, Honourable Speaker, what British Columbia wants is a Premier, Honourable Speaker, who will speak for British Columbia, who will speak for our representation in the House of Commons, which will speak for our representation in the upper house, who will defend the interests of British Columbia, and who will do this and lead British Columbia to a better future. That's what they want, and that's what they're going to get soon, Honourable Speaker.
Members.